In a surprising turn of events, lawyers representing former Ferrari driver Felipe Massa have taken legal action against Formula One management and the governing body, FIA. The legal action revolves around a bold claim of a conspiracy that allegedly deprived Massa of the 2008 Formula One championship. The implications of this legal action could potentially have far-reaching consequences for the motorsport world and for the title standings of that historic season. What does this mean for Lewis Hamilton? Will he lose his 2008 F1 title? Why is Massa bringing this up now? Stay tuned to find out. A formal 8-page letter before claim, seen by Reuters, was sent to Formula One chief executive Stefano Domenicali and Paris-based FIA president Mohammed Ben Sulayem on August 15. Such a letter is a required formal legal notice before court proceedings. London-based Enyo Law said Brazilian Massa had been the victim of a conspiracy committed by individuals at the highest level of F1 with the FIA and Formula One management. The crash cost Massa vital points in a season where he ultimately lost out by a single point to McLaren's Lewis Hamilton, the first of the Britain's record equaling 7. The letter stated, simply put, Mr. Massa is the rightful 2008 Drivers' Championship, and F1 and FIA deliberately ignored the misconduct that cheated him out of that title. Mr. Massa is unable to fully quantify his losses at this stage, but estimates that they are likely to exceed tens of millions of euros. This amount does not cover the serious moral and reputational losses suffered by Mr. Massa. The letter centers on a pivotal moment in the history of the sport. During the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, Massa was at the helm, steering his Ferrari towards a coveted victory, when the landscape of the race dramatically shifted. Nelson Piquet Jr., driving for Renault, executed a deliberate crash on the calculated instruction of his team's leadership. This audacious maneuver induced a safety car period, conveniently aligning with the race strategy of Piquet's teammate, Fernando Alonso. The outcome? A victory for Alonso. Yet the intrigue did not stop there. Ferrari, Massa's team, faced a mishap during his pit stop under the safety car conditions. As he was released prematurely with the fuel hose still attached, a penalty was incurred for an unsafe release, causing him to plummet to the 13th spot. This twist of fate bore far-reaching implications. Ultimately, Massa lost the 2008 championship to Lewis Hamilton of McLaren by a mere solitary point, his dreams thwarted. However, a year later, a bombshell revelation rocked the Formula One world. The veil of deception surrounding Piquet's crash was lifted, revealing a calculated conspiracy. Renault faced the brunt of the consequences, receiving a suspended disqualification from the sport. Key figures Flavio Briatore and Pat Simons, team bosses at Renault, were banned indefinitely and for 5 years respectively from motorsport involvement. So why is Massa now taking legal action against F1 years after the incident? An interview with Bernie Ecclestone, a former big shot in Formula One, triggered Massa's decision to take legal action. The former F1 boss, Bernie Ecclestone, dropped a hint during a translated interview on a German website. The insinuation that Ecclestone and then FIA President Max Mosley were privy to the deliberate nature of Piquet's crash, yet chose to bury it. Bernie Ecclestone said back in March, "We decided not to do anything for now. We wanted to protect the sport and save it from a huge scandal. That's why I used angelic tongues to persuade my former driver, Nelson Piquet, to keep calm for the time being." Back then, there was a rule that a world championship classification after the FIA award ceremony at the end of the year was untouchable, so Hamilton was presented with the trophy and everything was fine. We had enough information in time to investigate the matter. According to the statutes, we should have cancelled the race in Singapore under these conditions. He continued, that means it would never have happened for the championship standings, and then Felipe Massa would have become world champion, not Lewis Hamilton. He was cheated out of the title he deserved, while Hamilton had all the luck in the world and won his first championship. Today, I would have arranged things differently. Massa's main argument is that the results of the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix should be cancelled. If this happened, he would have become the champion because Hamilton's points would have been taken away. Imagine a scenario where Nelson Piquet Jr.'s orchestrated crash in Singapore never transpired. In this alternate reality, Massa would have entered the final race in Brazil with a promising lead, poised to clinch the title. His triumph in Interlagos and Lewis Hamilton's 5th place finish would have secured Massa's championship victory with a comfortable margin of around 9 points. The ramifications of Singapore's underhanded plot are undeniable. Earlier this year, Massa declared that he wanted justice. He said, if the most important people from Formula One and the FIA knew in 2008 and didn't do anything, do you think that was fair? It's not fair. Important people like Bernie, like Max Mosley, like Charlie Whiting, they knew in 2008 and they didn't do anything. That is really a massive surprise for me. It's really an injustice, and I think definitely we need to study everything that happened because it's not fair what has happened. The lawyer's letter warned that without a satisfactory response, Massa intended to pursue legal action in order to seek compensation for the harm he has suffered. The lawyers said that in the absence of a substantive reply within 14 days, they would start a lawsuit in the English courts without giving any more warning. When it comes to what kind of outcome could arise from legal proceedings, Massa is looking for the results of the Singapore Grand Prix to be voided outright. With Hamilton having scored a podium on the day, the points removed would give the then Ferrari driver the points he needed to become world champion himself for 2008. In speaking on the matter, he referenced McLaren's Spygate scandal from the year beforehand when it comes to how Formula One has acted to punish teams retrospectively in the past, with the team having been disqualified from the 2007 Constructors' Championship as a result. Massa stated, "If you say about a race manipulated for the result, like in this case that happened to me, no. What you had were other things. Like in 2007, when McLaren took the design from Ferrari, copied the car, and they were disqualified from the championship, they were punished for a situation. In this case, there was no punishment. In football and other sports, many things happened where results were corrected." Despite the start of legal action, Massa might not be able to officially overturn the result, with the FIA's own international sporting code stating protests and reviews expire 14 days after a competition and 4 days before that year's prize-giving ceremony. He also cannot use the Court of Arbitration for Sport, which has no jurisdiction over the FIA on issues like this, with the Independent International Court of Appeal the highest authority in the sport. CAS may only be involved in F1 matters relating to the FIA's Anti-Doping Disciplinary Committee. A big question to consider is whether the outcome of the entire championship was solely influenced by a single race in Singapore. In that race, Massa had a fuel hose issue caused by his own team, regardless of the reasons for the pit stop. Additionally, he had spun out in earlier races in Australia and Malaysia when he was in strong positions. In another race in Hungary, he had to retire while leading due to a power unit problem, costing him 10 points. The FIA might argue that these unfortunate incidents cost Massa at least 26 points, but they were unrelated to the Crashgate scandal. On the other hand, Hamilton's side could argue that they also faced their own misfortunes during the season, which hindered their performance and potential championship position. For a court case to be successful, Massa's lawyers would need to prove that any witness, such as Ecclestone, is telling the truth and explain why. It's also important to consider what Max Mosley, the former FIA president now deceased, would have said if he were alive. However, Mosley was known to avoid incriminating himself, and there likely isn't written evidence of their conversations, nor were there witnesses present. In essence, determining whether Massa was unfairly denied the championship would require substantial evidence and a clear understanding of the complex events and motivations involved. Also, given the FIA didn't have anything to do with the scandal, it would be hard for the body to take a world championship away from a driver. What do you think will be the outcome of this legal step by Massa? Let us know in the comments section below. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so that you can always get to watch more amazing videos like this. See you in the next video.